Welcome to Wild Pursuits with Cross Trail Outfitters, where we guide the next generation to Christ through the outdoors. Join us around the campfire as we share stories of faith, courage, and adventure. All right, welcome to this episode of Wild Pursuits. You guys are in for an amazing treat this morning. Just a couple of my favorite people in the whole world. This is Duane and Marlene Hada from Mountain Home, Arkansas, or really it's Yellville, Arkansas, but we always say Mountain Home, Arkansas. Not only are you looking at people that love the Lord and love CTO, they are our state directors for Cross Trail Outfitters in Arkansas. But Duane Hada is a very accomplished outdoor, how do you title yourself, Duane?
I don't know, I've been called a lot of things.
Outdoor artist, best way I can put it, but also is probably one of the most premier fly fishermen in the world. Now, he doesn't want me to say that, but I've also have witnessed it, not just with him, but Marlene outfishes him a lot. So I'm not so sure if it is all Duane. I think maybe Marlene's part of the brains behind the whole operation.
A lot of inspiration.
So you're in for a treat because they've been with Cross Trail Outfitters how many years now?
I think we're going on 9th year now, if I'm not
Year?
mistaken. Yes.
I was thinking, and what we want you guys to hear once again is their hearts about Cross Trail Outfitters, how they got started, how we got introduced. That's a whole story in itself as well. But more than anything, how CTO has changed your all's life, and how it has changed the lives of the young boys that you guys minister all across the state of Arkansas. And they're doing a phenomenal job. They've got hearts of gold, and they love the Lord. And they're very talented in the field and what they do. So I'm glad you guys are here with us today. We just wrapped up our 2025 Cross Trail Outfitters State Director and National Board meeting. We're here at the Lucas Oil Lodge here in Cross Timbers, Missouri, and Lucas Oil does amazing work with us and allows us to be here, stay in their lodge and hold meetings for several days, and we're just wrapping up on Sunday. And I said, man, we've got to take this opportunity to sit down with you guys and hear your guys' story and talk about it. So Duane, get us started.
Okay.
Tell us kind of your story and how we got going, and obviously, Marlene, we want your input as much or more than Duane's. But
Well, like I say, it started about 9 years ago, and you are a huge influence in that, and some of your wonderful guys. And Cross Trail Outfitters just has fit that perfect niche for us of, you know, if you are a Christian and you are evangelistic and you do take the message clearly that you are to spread the gospel, then how are you going to do that, and where does that fit? And you know, being an outdoorsman, growing up in the Ozarks, this is my home, this is my backyard. I've hunted and fished all my life, and I distinctly remember a time sitting in a church service where God very clearly spoke to me because there was a visiting pastor, and he gave a message, and he used a football game as sort of his analogy about, you know, the first quarter, the second quarter, halftime, third quarter, and fourth quarter. And he was really talking to our senior pastor in sort of the third quarter of his ministry and all. Yeah. But it hit directly to me, and I realized I wasn't even in the game. You know, I'm on the bench. I'm not even playing. And what excuse do I have? And it really wouldn't go away, and it bothered me. And I went home, and I know my wife, she knew something. When I get these spiritual conflicts in my life, I get kind of quiet sometimes. And she said, "Are you okay? Are you feeling ill?" And I said, "Well, I just need to be alone for a little bit and talk with God." And I've got a place. I live down near the Buffalo River, and I get up on this high bluff, and she said, "Well, don't jump, you know." But I just wanted to be where I could see over this beautiful landscape that I've been blessed to grow up and live in. But more than anything, just to pray, and I wept, and I said, "God, you know, you've given me all of this. You've given me a place, a beautiful place to live. I've enjoyed amazing outdoor skills and all that I've grown into. How do I give this back?" And that's the beautiful thing about Cross Trail Outfitters and organization, is that it allows you to take the gifts that God has given you to then use those. And what could be better? Why should ministry be a drudge and something you fight instead of something that you allow God. Give it to Him. He gives it back tenfold and blesses it in such amazing ways. So that started the journey. And my wife, being a career school teacher, would come home with stories of boys. She said he just needs an influential man in his life. He has nobody. This kid is just making such wrong decisions, and it just needs some direction from a manly man that can you maybe take him hunting sometime or take him fishing, and that's kind of a little bit of what started. And I saw immediately the impact that just taking a young man and giving him some assurance, giving him some, just some validity to who he is and some worth and confidence, exactly, and getting him out and teach him a skill. Yeah. A simple skill, maybe casting a fly rod or shooting a gun for the first time, and all these things, and what it did for them. But even more so, and you've always said, what CTO, it just gives a great, amazing avenue for. You take Johnny and here's God, here's what he created, and you get those two together out there and take the distractions away, and it's very easy for them to reflect on creation and their place in this world and answer all those questions that every young man will have and face in his growing up. So we're just basically training them up in the way they should go, and we're using the outdoors to do it because it's an amazing tool. Every young man, I think, pretty much has a desire to be wild and wild at heart and to do those things. So that just fit perfectly with me. Yeah. We've had amazing success. My wife and I sit down sometimes, just look through the photo album, if you will, of 9 years worth of young boys coming in as little tow-headed, awkward as can be, don't know a thing, to young men now that are being in life, engaging in jobs and in marriage and having kids, and we're seeing them do it God's way, and there's nothing more fulfilling. And some of these kids, everybody says, well, they're at risk. We're all at risk, but just seeing these boys throughout their life of the choices they make and how God has led, what is it, Ephesians 2:10, we keep saying, for we are His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus, to do those things which He has prepared in advance. And I used that not long ago in our call, and makes more sense every day to me that all I'm doing is just getting up every day and saying, Lord, thank you for another day. I live in this amazing place. You give me this, and here's the opportunities. And so we engage with these kids. We teach them skills. We take them on trips. We do things that for them and with them that they probably wouldn't do, but I grew up being able to do, and you and others but we're in a generation where kids, especially young men, do not have those opportunities. I think it's 1 in 4 now are out of, have no one in their life to take them. And so we get a lot of single parent situations, and it's just amazing. It's a beautiful ministry. And like this weekend, just, these are deep brothers and sisters. They truly, in a ministry like this, when you have people that care on the level that they do, and it's so exciting for us to see all across this nation the footprint of CTO and what it's doing, and I'm just proud to be a real part of it. But anyway, I'm talking a lot.
No, this is good, because you got a lot of wisdom and you got a lot of stories. I mean, we could probably do about 10 podcasts with you guys with the stories of just life transformation that's happened in these young men's lives through CTO. Just something to note when you were talking about how our youth and the outdoors and how that's going away. We talked about this a little bit this weekend. A new statistic that I just heard from a very reliable source, that the youth hunter and fishermen, this is boys, girls, everything, is going down 7% every single year. 7%. So we can do our math. 10 years from now, if this Missouri math is right, that's 70%. In just 10 years, gone if we don't do something just in the outdoors. Now, we are about providing that opportunity, getting them in the outdoors, but we know the whole part of the outdoors, they experience God. Sure. Because they get away from that phone, they get away from the distractions and all the things. We just provide that opportunity to get away and to do that in the outdoors. And many of them come to us because they think, I just want to hunt and fish. And then they might be a little surprised to realize, yes, they get to hunt and fish and do these amazing opportunities. And every young man I've ever known that's been around you guys, your ability, not only around a campfire on the spiritual side, you're a phenomenal storyteller, phenomenal campfire leader. But then when they realized I'm around one of the most world premier fly fishermen in the country, if not in the world, and getting to learn and experience these things. And then when you start talking about the giftings that you have, you both run this gallery of your own artwork with how God does that. It's just mind-boggling to me how God has brought you to us, and your skills and your ability and what you can do. And these young boys get to experience that. To me, they're introducing to the outdoors, but more importantly, they're introduced to Christ. But then they also get to introduce to art, to fly fishing, because fly fishing, in my opinion, is an art. It's not as normal. It's not the same as just putting a hook or sinker on something and casting and dropping or reeling. There's an art. I'm assuming you would probably agree with that.
Sure.
And teaching that to these boys as well. It's just phenomenal what the Lord does with you. So,
well, I can't do it alone. You know that.
I know
and I don't know where you want to interject this. Fine. But God has definitely given me an amazing lady, and we this is us together. It's not we're lockstep in this, and that's very fulfilling to see. God has brought some of these kids because they had no other place to go, and even into our own home, and that's a big thing, and not an easy thing for us. She's just reached retirement. We're like, wow, we're empty nesters. Let's start enjoying. And then God says, wait, I got one more that needs, and so we just weren't really asking to do that, but that was been a real blessing, and everything, and just the way that God just continues to weave His plan and uses you to, again, that Ephesians 2:10 just being played out in everyday life. But my wife is she's an outdoorsman. She says it's weather permitting, in comfort level, but she pursues it with the same passions that I do, and that's been a fun thing. And I think for the boys to see, I think part of why I keep her around in
like it's Duane's choice.
Well, no, what I'm getting at is I like to see my boys, hopefully we model out what a Christian marriage is and a strong, some of these boys have never seen that. And I purposefully flirt with my wife and let them know that I love my wife, and she means a lot to me, and she is my rock, and the role that fulfills that God has put in our lives, and they need to see that, and she models that beautifully. And a lot of them don't have a mother that so there's a lot of beautiful things that take place that are good and everything. But
I think it's important to note that I think a lot of people, when they're watching these podcasts or when they hear about Cross Trail Outfitters, we are men working with young men.
Sure.
But there is a role for ladies, especially spouses, to play. Sure. And I think it's vitally important for these boys to see that love between a man and a woman, a healthy love, a godly, biblical love,
sure.
But also see the struggle of life, but also see, like you're talking about flirting with her, and that appropriately, of course, in front of people and those types of things, but just seeing that is what is a healthy relationship looks like, and the ups and downs, the ebb and flow, praying together,
sure.
The concern, the love that they see from her, and then look to you like as a mother also at that camp or whatever it may be. I think it's important for people to understand that, yes, we are men, and that is who we are, and that's what we do. But at the same time, there is roles that sure. Ladies play that help, once we get them through the vetting process and go through everything, there's a role for them to be able to provide for that. So,
sure.
Marlene, tell us your story. I know you're like, I'm just going to sit there and I'm like, no. She's got an amazing story too, but just how has CTO impacted you? And I think it'd be good for people to know your role as a spouse in CTO, and in my case with Jennifer and I, it's evolved. There's been an evolution of the role. It changes periodically.
Yes.
So kind of tell us a little bit about that and just how God has changed your life and how God has used you in CTO in working with Duane.
All right. Well, I did grow up in a family that enjoyed the outdoors. My dad had 5 girls, and he loved outdoors, so we were right there with them, and that was a blessing. My mom loved the outdoors.
5 girls.
5 girls.
God bless your father. That's awesome.
And he is a wonderful earthly father, and he, just, we were right there beside him, and we started out fishing with him, and he didn't have any chance to fish other than just put worms on our hooks, but and it just evolved there as well. And my mom loved the outdoors, so that was a natural thing for us. Plus, it's cheap.
Yeah.
They were missionaries, stateside missionaries, so
Right.
we were always looking for an inexpensive vacation or an inexpensive, activity to do together, and the outdoors is there. You don't have to spend a lot of money. And kids, I think all boys and girls from infancy on, if you put them in the outdoors, you don't have behavioral problems because they're experiencing the outdoors, they're looking there. There's not, other than throwing rocks at each other, there's not a lot that they can get in trouble with just playing outside. And so it's a very healthy thing also. And I believe that we lose some of that within our society today, and therefore CTO takes that opportunity to replace that. But then Duane and I met in high school, and
Met in a canoe.
met in a canoe.
High school
That's
sweethearts
correct.
met in a canoe.
Yeah, he asked me if I wanted to go on a canoe ride, and so of course I said yes.
You were
and
hooked immediately when she said yes to that, didn't you?
so we've
That's
been.
the test of every relationship.
That is
Well, there's some truth to that.
There's
Jennifer and I have a few stories of canoes that tested our
It's not all
relationship.
been a great smooth ride, believe me.
We've had some not so good canoe rides.
I know I don't want to interrupt you, but I got to ask on that. Who was in the back and who was in the front?
I was in the back. I was steering.
yeah.
So
He
you were steering,
definitely
because that
took.
controls
I
things.
knew I had a good girl when I went across this little section of Flint Creek, and the water's so clear. And she goes, "That's about a 5-pound largemouth." I'm like,
You're like, yeah, she's a keeper.
can
And you
identify-
weren't talking about the 5-pound largemouth, right?
yeah. I'm like, wow, somebody's raised her right.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right.
Yeah, we've had some canoe rides that haven't been so fun, but
Move on.
That's another podcast.
yeah, another podcast.
Another
There you
type of
go.
thing.
So we have known each other since our juniors in high school and all through college, and married, and we've done life together, and we have a daughter. Wow, there's a lot of water under that bridge. But back to CTO, Duane felt that call, and I was still teaching at the time. I've been retired 2 years, but at that time I was just like, this is really right up your alley, go for it. But don't expect a lot from me because I have a full-time job.
Yeah.
And yet it's not that I wasn't supportive, it was just,
You couldn't commit
how
to
much
that.
can I do? This is not my commitment at that time. I did help him from the get-go and helped him a lot. And he has his skills and abilities, and I have mine, and we complement each other in that. So that's also very important for the boys to see. They see that. They know, who to go to ask a question about, as we all do with kids. Kids know, go to mom, go to dad, whatever. So I've pretty much been there. There's been a few activities that I haven't gone on, but they know that I'm going to be there. This is what we do together. And so we have been in boys' lives for quite some time. Now that I'm retired, I'm taking on a little bit more of the other responsibilities as well. But he also has a great team of men and young boys that we see on a daily basis and a weekly basis that are very, very helpful to him as well. So again, I'm not going to do everything that other mentors are going to do, but there's definitely a place for wives to help their husbands, if nothing else, to be that prayer partner, to be that support, and in whatever skills they have, be it administrative or otherwise, that they definitely need to have that. Our husbands need to have that backing.
Absolutely.
And so that's kind of where my role is, to do the logistics, to do the administrative part, do some cooking, to teach the boys cooking. They love to be in the kitchen. So, people are like, well, you're going and cooking all this stuff. Or I'm like, no, well, yeah, I'm preparing it and I'm doing all this. But when they get to camp, they're like right in there. What can I do? What can I do?
Yeah, they want to be.
They
part of it.
want to be.
It's quite a thing to sit back and watch that kitchen.
Yeah,
It's like a cooking show. I mean,
Yeah, and being a school teacher, I kind of know how to delegate to kids, and so therefore, I'm like, okay, do it this way, and I need you to do this, and so I guess I can get a little bit, I want to say delegating, a little bit bossy in the kitchen, but
She's a kitchen boss.
it's fun. It's fun for the boys.
I've seen it with you. You are phenomenal at it.
That's where
she taught that for 27 years. Home economics or
family and
whatever.
consumer science. Yeah.
So,
So that's where we are, and we're still plodding along in our business and in CTO. And
I think it's important for people to know a majority of our guys at this time in CTO are outfitters and state directors. Majority of them have other jobs and other things. I mean, you were teaching at one time. You're both running a gallery. You're not only just running a gallery. People might think, oh, it's just running a gallery. No, you're providing the stuff in the gallery. So you've got to paint. You've got to be inspired to do what you got to do.
I guided
And then you were guiding for fly fishing forever.
I don't. And you can't do everything. And as I've matured in age and everything, in the art business, God has really blessed on that. But it's also been an amazing thing to. We have some of our CTO boys that have worked for us from time to time and have developed a really neat skill and talent that they didn't know necessarily that they had, and we've been so blessed to see that in their lives, and just but to keep all of this balanced anyway is a struggle. We've talked about that, but God seems to somehow, in His amazing economy of time and talent and giving and all, we do make it, and it's good. But it's I don't know. I don't want to overwork my wife, and I have learned, and God has really blessed me with bringing some wonderful younger men into my CTO circle that I've allowed, and they're doing an amazing thing, and they're catching the same vision, and we've got a good team, and we're doing some good things. Our vision for Arkansas is, and maybe if you're listening to this, is that CTO needs to grow. We have the most amazing state of everywhere I've visited, and I've been lucky but we have it all right here in Arkansas, and there's no reason why we can't have CTO chapters in every zone of this state, from the Ouachitas to all the way to the Delta and all around. So God is at work. If you this is an amazing ministry that you need to look at it seriously, because it is a calling.
Absolutely.
It's not just like, well, I get to hunt and fish more at some cool places, because as you
We
know
do,
and I know,
but that's not what it's about.
but it's about the boys and developing them, and if you truly care about this next generation, and we should, because there's some struggles that they face. When I sit around the campfire with some of these boys, my heart just bleeds with how are they going to make it, and they're not going to make it if they don't have men that they can trust and open up to, and get some direction, and we all need this. And so this is vitally important at this stage of their development, but also to you as men. I remember my pastor, when I sat down with him and excitedly told him what I was, and he just looked at me and he said, you realize you're probably going to be ministering to men as much as you are to the boys. And that has proven to be true. The amazing amount of men that we've watched that have really stepped up, and God has done something amazing and beautiful in their life too. But there is nothing you shooting a 200-inch buck. I've never done it. I don't know if you have. Yeah, you've shot some. I've seen your wall. It's pretty impressive. But to see a young man get it right, okay, and get on the path of maturing and growing into what God has designed him to be, there is nothing more fulfilling than that, okay?
So
and
true.
We get to see that, and that's exciting. That's what keeps us every day in the face of adversity, and maybe, donations or various things aren't what they should be or whatever, but to see that and know that you had a hand, and God, again, that Ephesians 2:10, the workmanship of the things that He's already prepared in advance for us to do, and see that come to life. That is an amazing fulfillment that nothing else can even come close to. So that's what we're about. That's what we do. I've got amazing people. God has gifted me with a wife who shares that, and I the kids call me tech-tarded. Okay, maybe that's not politically correct to say, but if you've been around me much, it's very true. But I do some things very well. Okay, and so I'm smart enough to surround myself with an amazing wife who shares this passion for me and what we do, and some good men out there. So that's what CTO is all about. That's the heartbeat of CTO, and you need to get it going in it'll grow your community. It'll grow to sit back again and to watch boys develop. She's got a word or two to say.
She's got a word. Well, but she's going to give us a word, but be thinking also, because I do want to think of one or two boys. I have especially one boy that I know you've got dozens and dozens.
Sure.
But come to mind of just how it impacted one of their lives. Just be thinking about that way.
All right.
And maybe what she's getting ready to say. I don't know.
No, what I was thinking as you were talking was it's, we're impacting their lives. I say God's impacting through using us. But we have actually grown in our faith and through all of it as well. And really, if we look at who we are in Christ and what our purpose is here on earth, number one, to love and honor and glorify Him, but then also for other people. We really don't have a choice.
Yeah.
And this is just an avenue that He's using us in to reach others for Christ, because that's really that's the Great Commission. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Absolutely. So like he said, if we can do that and do it in an environment that we love, then it just makes it more real for them.
That's a very good point. And you're mentioning anybody listening to this, because I know we see this with men especially. I'm a man, so I can address men, but knowing there's men sitting in churches, some that aren't sitting in churches, and they just can't figure out how do I fit in.
I was that guy.
How do you use me, and where that's not me in a building, or that's not me in this.
I couldn't be that suit and tie guy every Sunday.
It didn't fit right. So then they start excusing themselves. And then they do that one Sunday, and then the next Sunday, and then meanwhile they've got a family, they've got kids, they're taking themselves even out of those situations. I fully believe that, I always kind of call it the cherry on top, so to speak, in CTO, that's what we provide, that opportunity for that man to find his purpose. Sure. We know his identity. We've been talking this weekend a lot about identity. We know the identity is in Christ. That's what it should be in. But trying to find his identity of how he fits in this world, how God can use him, whether he knows the Lord or whether he doesn't know the Lord, how do I fit into this? This is just another way. If a man's sitting here listening to this, whether it be now or months or years from now, my prayer is that when he sees that, he goes, well, there is something out there that it does exist. Man, that could be me, the outdoors, hunting, fishing, skills of that nature. And wait a minute, I can actually grow in the Lord myself, and help others grow in the Lord. That, I believe, is very attractive to a lot of men that would be hearing something like this. And I believe the church, the steeple church, is this God's number one way of doing this, but there has to be other churches, so to speak, outside of here of God's people doing this work. And TTO provides one of those avenues to do that, and that's kind of our niche with what we try to do in the hunting and fishing world. So that, I think it's a great point of just understanding that it's not just, yes, it is about the boys and the kids. That is our number one, but there is so many other, how it's changed your all's life, how it's changed my life, how it's changed men's lives and women's lives, just different spouses and other volunteers that have come into contact with us.
Well, begs me to ask men out there, why are you not doing this? I mean, seriously.
That's
I mean,
a good point.
you know, I hear every excuse, and I can very enthusiastically sit down and share my, you know, but I ask, you know, why are you not involved in some way mentoring? You know, whether it's just from the outdoors aspect, if declining numbers are out there and you're going, and you can't wait for your turkey season, but you know of a kid in your area that could learn this, why aren't you taking him? You know, if he doesn't have somebody to take him, why aren't you doing this? You've killed enough birds.
Challenge.
I'm not an expert deer hunter, but I've killed enough deer that my satisfaction now is in seeing when Zach shot his first deer with a traditional bow this year. You could not, the beam on that kid's face, okay? I mean, that's a tough challenge already. And he wanted to do, yes, and he wanted to do it. And he practiced and practiced. And we, with another CTO brother down in Louisiana, provided an opportunity, and he made it happen. And what a huge accomplishment, you know, and everything, and
better than any big buck you could shoot.
Yeah, right. And it was just a doe. Yeah, and it was a huge doe, but still the skill level that it took and the amount of practice I knew he went before and everything to do and to see that. But you were talking about, you asked us, you know, individual ones. We counted up one time. There's, I think, over 48 young men that have made a commitment to Christ in their life through this ministry since we started. That's, you know, it's a number, but it's a, you know,
that's called kingdom impact.
Yeah, you bet. You know, and we're not sitting there just like sitting there with a clicker, like, okay, we got to get numbers. It's about impacting and building in their life. But to look back through that, and that's a great feeling to know. But we've had certain individuals. We took a young man in who found himself, not by his doing anything wrong, just through the court system, this kid's going to have to go somewhere. And we called around and tried, and like nowhere for him to go. And Marlene and I sat down, like, and this is a young man that came to one of our camps as early as 11 years old. And we've watched this kid, and we know the struggles that he's had, and we're like, well, we can't not take him in. And that's not, you know, it's not like just going and getting a puppy at the pound, okay? And I don't mean that in every way. You know, this is a kid that needed somebody.
It's a life.
It's a
soul.
And we brought him in, and that wasn't easy. And we grew together. We struggled together. We cried together. We disciplined together, and we did all those things that just having a rough, wild teenage boy in your home, okay? And bless my dear wife for putting up with that. But she was so, when I was harsh, she was loving. And we just demonstrated God's love in a home to a young man that needed that desperately. And I think if he was sitting right here, he would bear hug me and like, you saved my life. And I
would agree with that.
Yeah. But God did an amazing thing in this young man's life, and we are seeing him today making good choices. He's got a adult head on his shoulders about his future. He's got a great woman that he has married, and God's going to bless them as they continue. And we were given that opportunity to help guide and direct, and to sit back and watch them do well.
He's already giving back to see.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, we loved seeing him. We've invited him back on a couple of events, and he's at, you know, a young age now, a young man, but he's respected by the younger ones, but to think where he would have wound up had God not allowed for, again, part of that puzzle piece that we didn't. It was in the plan of God since eternity, and we just suddenly got the little light bulb like, hey, and now we could have chose and said no. A lot of people did, like, we can't do that right now, and we said that, no, we can't do that. And then we're like, we can't not do this, you know, and it's not going to be easy, and it wasn't easy, but I would trade it for nothing. I mean, it was very fulfilling and all that. You being
I think that's phenomenal because I mean,
you know the young man.
Yeah, I know the young man personally, and he has a presence about himself too. You were talking about how the young boys look up to him. He does have a presence when he's around. He just appears even older than what he was, even when he was younger.
He grew up fast.
Yeah, and
He
he
had
was
to.
growing up fast, maturing fast. Some by his own choices about things at that stage in his life. Doesn't make him perfect and where he's at now. But I would agree. I think you would say the same thing. You guys saved his life, literally, and that's just. I mean, that's just not every story is just like that in CTO,
Sure,
right?
sure,
Not every single one is.
More the extreme.
but more to the extreme. But there is a lot of those, and I think that's when somebody's sitting here watching that and they're like, how can I make my mark on this world? How can I find my identity? And I was just sitting there thinking that when you were telling that story about him, that you guys helped guide him to his identity of who he is in Christ, and to find what his niche in this world, and it's still going to be up and down for him. He's got a lot still to overcome, and things within his mind and within his soul, within his body, and it's just exciting. I know there's nothing better than that. When I hear these stories, we call it TTO, or even in biblically speaking, it's fruit.
Right.
That is fruit that God has provided in using us. And we have a call every Tuesday morning at 5 a.m. Central Time. That's for all the outfitters and state directors and top volunteers and people like that. And by the time you do devotion and business and a few little things, we always save time for fruit stories. And it's always encouraging, if nothing else on that call, when I sit there and just listen to that, it just shows that this is a breathing organism that works, that God is doing a special work because of the fruit that's out there all across the nation. And yeah, you could put numbers to a lot of it, and we do track some of that, but it's not about the numbers. It's really about changing one life and then changing another life. And it doesn't just stop. It's not a one-time shop or a one photo op, as we like to say sometimes. It's over and over and over. We provide those moments, and it's discipleship. Not just, yes, we want to lead them to a relationship with Jesus Christ, but then after that, we're going to disciple them on what that relationship looks like. And some are great with that in terms of boys sticking with it, and some aren't. And it is a struggle at times for us to keep that rolling with them, but we do provide that, and that's just one of, like you said, hundreds of kids.
It's that starfish on the beach story,
Exactly.
and you have to. If you have a soul and if you care about humans, then God will prick your heart, and you just have to say yes, and then He'll provide. And He provided amazingly all through that. So again, there is not a ministry out there, guys. If you are an outdoorsman and you have an interest in that, and you are a Christian, you should seriously look at this ministry. I mean, we are growing. We grow. It's amazing just the time I've been there to see the impact and the reach that we are gaining, and to have a chapter in Alaska is amazing. And Marlene and I were very influential in helping Louisiana get started just through a friendship.
Very much
through
so.
Again, there's that puzzle piece. Okay, just through my art business and my fly fishing, a guy that walked into our business, and then it started, and then there were other things that were already taking place there, and then how God has just developed and moved there, and then we've developed good friendships. And
Well, look how you got started at the very beginning.
Right.
At
a feed store.
store.
They put on. Okay, we have a dear friend that. And he's an amazing supporter of. He has been amazing, and he runs a very successful business in the farm and supply and ranch store and everything. And he had a connection to your Brad Harris there.
Mike Harris.
Mike Harris. I'm sorry.
Mike
Yeah,
Harris.
yeah.
Oh yeah, when Mike listens to this, he called you Brad. I'm just saying.
Where did I get that? Anyway, I've got another friend named Brad. So, Mike, I love you, brother. But and it was just amazing. But see there again, So I showed up out at this farm supplies store.
Like an outdoor
event anyway.
event,
Outdoor event. Wasn't huge anyways, at our fairgrounds.
Yeah.
And there's this guy here talking about youth ministry and CTO, and he had this whirling duck thing with a little Nerf shotgun.
I
and
sent him with that.
Kids were loving it, and so I get talking to him, and I'm like, "What is this?" And I thought, well, who's got time for that? It sounds cool and neat and all, but And another year goes by and he shows up again, and I'm like, oh, it's you again, and he said, man, we really need to get into Arkansas. Who is the man that God's calling, and he said, is that you? And I'm like, well, somebody needs to do this, but that's when that sermon that I heard, just the arrow was shot straight to the heart,
During that
and
time
it was a very good shot.
Because during that time frame, Mike was coming back after that show every single year, and he goes, I've got our Arkansas guy.
Oh, wow.
I've got our Arkansas guy.
Puzzle pieces.
He would say he just doesn't know it yet.
Oh, wow.
He says, I've got our guy.
That's
He
why.
just doesn't know it yet. And that went on for at least 2 years. It might have been 3 years.
Yep.
It was quite a bit because I kept saying, well, okay, well, awesome. We're waiting. Let
So,
us know.
Is that you? I
Yeah.
mean, are you out there and you're thinking, wow, this all sounds cool and interesting? It's just a matter of saying yes and getting along with God. I mean, because it is a calling. If you're going to do it just because you think it's kind of neat, you're going to give it up, because, but it's going to strike you deep in your heart. And when you see that first young man get it right spiritually and renew his path, and become living as God intended for his life to be. See, that's the whole thing here is, God has created you. You're this amazing piece. He made no mistakes. You have a purpose, and the sooner you find that purpose in life. I always tell boys around the campfire, why waste your good years circling and struggling when you could get it right tonight, and start your path and be well ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Both successfully in your business and your education and just eliminating a lot of the baggage that a lot of young men take into their life, and took me half my life to get myself, and I'm still, Marlene's like, you ain't there yet, but but through the grace of God, I'm a better man today than I was at 20 years of age by far. And God is just perfecting me daily as I allow him to. And guys like you that are good brothers, that's the neat thing too with this whole ministry is you're going to meet some of the coolest men, real men, okay, real men who, bear hunt on a regular basis, that fish all over the country, that are skilled in the outdoor activities, and then they turn around and give that up to the ministry, and we do high quality. Our trips, we're not just let's go do a little camping in a city park here and call it an outdoor event. I mean, we're blood, sweat, and tears, and then we have great success. I mean, some of our boys have accomplished some amazing feats of outdoor skills, and have gone. I think of young Zach, in our bunch. I mean, this kid has won amazing titles in fly casting competitions and in competing against adult men and professional guides in fly fishing tournaments and winning. That ought to make him stand proud, and he will give God the glory for that. And he will quickly say, CTO taught me these things, or gave me those opportunities to go to camps where this was taught and learned. So anyway, it's awesome.
That is great. We're going to kind of start wrapping it up
You
here.
bet.
But
We'll
this
talk
is
forever.
great. Marlene, a while ago, you kind of felt like I thought you maybe had something. Did you have something that God put on your heart? I don't know. You just seemed like earlier you were like, "Give me that, give me that."
I've seen that look before.
I don't remember that actually. But one thing that I do want to emphasize is God has given all of us the Great Commission.
Oh yeah.
And this is our
Yeah.
way of fulfilling it.
This is your niche where God has put you for such a time as this.
You bet.
To be used in a mighty way by God, and He's been doing it for the last 9 years. God was using you before that as well.
Right.
But this is your thing. I always say, "What's your thing?" This is your identity is in Christ, but this is really your identity because you guys have these amazing talents. We talk about fly fishing and we talk about Duane's artwork and all those things. But when I hear you guys talk, and specifically Duane, when I hear you talk, I don't hear you talk much about that. I really don't. I don't hear you talking about painting and I did this and yep, I sold that for that. I don't ever hear that aspect from you. In my mind, looking in on the outside, Your identity is truly in Christ, and it's not even CTO. Your identity is in Christ to share Christ with these young boys in the outdoors, and that's who you are to the core. We always tease Duane all the time. We have meetings and stuff, and where's Duane? He's fishing he found a mud puddle out back, and he thinks there's something in it, and he's fly fishing it, right? And we tease him like, somebody go get Duane, time for our meetings. And we tease him at that, but his passion, not just for that, I know that that's not just a draw to go catch that next big fish. That's part of it, but it's the draw of just being in him.
Sure.
And being in what he's created for us. And we teach that to these boys. And you guys both are phenomenal. Guys doing a great work. And it's hard to maybe not believe this, but you're 9 years into this. I believe you're just beginning.
Sometimes it feels that
You're
way.
just, I understand that too. You're just getting started,
Sure.
and God's going to blow your mind away with what He's going to do, not just for you, but through you and through these kids' lives and these families' lives.
Well, we feel Arkansas and is prime, okay, for growth, and so contact us, come see us, talk to us about. We talked this whole week about doing these new calling camp events and things, and just vision meetings, and if this has pricked your heart, and so do contact us either nationally or if you're in the state of Arkansas or whatever state you're in, look us up on the map, teamcto.org, and I'm sure there'll be tons of little hashtags and all at the. Did I use it?
Listen to him.
Well,
He
I
is
have no clue what that is.
sounding
But
quite
anyway,
smart.
get in touch with us, okay?
Right.
Meet me up for breakfast some morning, and I will definitely tell you my story and how you can become involved as a supporter or prayer partners, or just getting this going in your community. It will definitely bring people into the kingdom, and that's a beautiful thing.
I remembered what it was.
There you go. I knew there was something.
So you can be a part of CTO, whether you're the one that's called to go out in the field with the boys, and you're like, well, I can't do that. I don't have the means or the want to or the desire, but you have the resources that we need. And
Whether it's
so land or money or whatever it is. So whether or not you are that called person, you're still called to fulfill the Great Commission.
Amen.
And some people fulfill that through being with the boys, and others fulfill that through how can I give my resources.
Well,
and
just
it's an
last week-
answer to God. It's not just an answer to us.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I see that so much. We took boys on a big bass fishing opportunity at a private lake down in South Arkansas. This gentleman doesn't have to do that, but he gets a blessing by watching us boys come down there, and
They said us boys.
well, yeah, I become a kid with them on that, and they get to fish a high quality catch and release lake that has big bass in it, and this gentleman doesn't have to do that, but he does, and he makes it very clear to us that this is a blessing for him, for us to have this opportunity. So that's how it works. Whether you have properties, you've got some amazing properties up here in Missouri that are just like the primo, and these boys are getting to hunt some places that only other people get to dream about. Well, that's through the graciousness, if that's the right word, of somebody's heart that's like, I've been blessed with this hundreds of acres of prime whitetail land that I want to share, so I'm going to get in touch with CTO, and you've got some amazing places that only through people's hearts and generosity, and whether it may be through financial donations or land, or we've got some wonderful older ladies and gentlemen in our church congregation. They're not going to get out and do anything like that, but they love what we do, and they support us, and they're always like, we're praying for you, and that's beautiful. And they may, occasionally on a Sunday they'll slip us a check, and say, hey, I want to help you. I know you guys are going. You got to feed them boys. You got to buy gas and everything. So it's again just amazing how it all happen.
Absolutely.
So you can do something to be part of this ministry.
That
for
is so
sure.
true, and know that it's not just about the hunting and fishing. We need landowners, we need financial contributors, we need volunteers, we need cookie makers, we need people that are that have the resources to come around, but more importantly, the volunteers. But nobody ever really likes to talk about this. We are a 501c3, we are a nonprofit, and nobody ever wants to talk about the money side of things. But it takes money to put gas in a truck to haul a kid to a hunt. It takes money to go buy a box of shells. And it always adds up. And I think some people look at Cross Trail Outfitters and say, oh, they've got all this. There's always a need, and there's a state-specific need. So specifically, if anywhere in the United States, if you're sitting there and God's pricking your heart, look us up. Just Google Cross Trail Outfitters. It'll take you right to the website. You can call 1-866-KID-HUNT. That is one that'll take you to our direct line to look us up. But specifically, we're talking with our state directors here from Arkansas. If you're in the state of Arkansas, or I'll even put it in the borderlines of all the state of Arkansas, outside of that, and you know and have a contact of somebody or a family or a kid or a landowner or a potential donor that might want to be plugged in to be a part of the great commission that Cross Trail Outfitters does, look us up, contact us. Google us at Cross Trail Outfitters, and you're going to see what we're about. I hope you've heard this. I know I've enjoyed listening to these stories because I know this is just the beginning, even though you guys have been doing phenomenal work for the last 9 years. So it's a pleasure having you guys here with us today. And I'm very, very excited that you all joined us here today around the campfire with Wild Pursuits. So we'll see you next time, and have a good time. Thank you for listening to Wild Pursuits with Cross Trail Outfitters. CTO is a hunting and fishing club with the mission of guiding the next generation to Christ through the outdoors. If you'd like to support us or are interested in getting involved, visit us on our website at teamcto.org. Links are in the description. Make sure to like and share our podcast. And join us next time around the campfire with Wild Pursuits.